looking for a 17-pound dog who can hide in a 6 by 6 inch area over 50 square miles.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Elation podcast today, where we enjoy exhilarating euphoria through creation and collaboration. Today, we're here with Michelle Cheramie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Nice to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
We're here to talk a little bit about your life and what you got going on with Zeus Rescue, but let's dive into your origin story. Where are you from?
I'm actually from way down the bayou.
Way down the bayou,
I'm from Cut Off, Louisiana. Born in Galliano, moved up north of town to Cut Off. Yeah, so I'm a true Cajun.
Cajun country, I was going to say, absolutely. I love that area. I mean, my dad's from Crown Point, and all of he grew up with supply boats and in the oil fields. So
you speaking my language right there,
and all that. So grew up working on the boats, back then. So all those areas are, close to my heart for sure.
It was a great place to grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit about Zeus Rescue and what you're doing.
So Zeus was actually my dog, who's from Golden Meadow.
Okay.
I got him from down the bayou, and he taught me about the need of animals in animals in need, and he was such a good boy that I named all my businesses after him. And I've been doing rescue since as long as I can remember. My mom found once a Girl Scout questionnaire, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it says, I want to work with animals. And I was about 6-7 years old. So I've always had this in me, and I kind of took a weird route to get there. I used to be, I have a degree in psychology and a degree in art. I managed restaurants like Ralph and Cacou's in the French Quarter in the early 90s. And then I moved into IT, which is what my dad did for a living down the bayou, this company called Latelco, which was a telephone company down there. And he was the chief information officer. So I never had a fear of computers. And so I became a network administrator for an international company. And I was doing that in data management when Katrina hit. And, we had a backup data site, which was on Metairie Road, right by the tracks. It was supposed to be bomb-proof, basically, but not Hurricane Katrina proof. So at that time, I was doing Zeus's Rescues. I was doing rescue, basically, me and my husband at the time, in our house. So we'd always have litters of puppies or kittens or an extra animal here and there, because I've always rescued. And, Katrina hit, and we lost everything. We evacuated in my truck called Tiny. It was, like a Sanford & Son looking truck. That's what my rescue truck, with our 2 dogs, of course, a rescue dog, our 2-year-old daughter. And we went to Houston, quote unquote, for the weekend to my brother's house. And then everything happened, and we came back, and I had left my Jeep at home. My Jeep was flooded out, over the steering wheel. Our house was in shambles. We had some previous termite damage, just like every single house in New Orleans, but sitting in 5 feet of water, the seals failed, a microburst hit over our bedroom and put a nice hole from ground to sky.
Right.
And so I started doing rescue. I came in from Houston, where they sent us in the data. And I started doing rescue because the national organizations needed somebody that could drive a boat. I'm Cajun, I can do that. Knew the streets of New Orleans without street signs, got that, and knew how to do rescue and, emergency rescue on site, like slack water, administer fluid. So I ticked all those boxes. So I started going out with these national organizations and like, where's Marigny Street? And all right, this is like September 9th, 2005, like really right after. And we would go in every day, and, these animals would just be approaching we had a school bus. They would just come out of the woodwork, and then the military were the only people in town. And so they'd be letting us know, they would let us know where animals were. They'd be bringing us boxes with, I remember this one high-ranking military official. He had a box, and he had this look on his face. And I remember walking, and it was so hot, and it was so quiet, and I could hear the ground crunching underneath his feet. And I just looked at him like, oh man, what's in that box? And it was a turtle.
Oh, wow.
He had found something alive, and it was amazing, because we were walking the streets, and they still hadn't cleared these houses, so we knew there were dead bodies, because there's this smell that you will never forget.
Get out,
you will never not know what that is. And so we were sensing where all the people who, perished in the storm were. And here's this one guy, and I know from the look on his face, he had seen so much stuff, and he had found something alive, and he found a box and he brought it to us. And I'm like, I'm going to help you with this turtle. So I
Wow.
took the turtle. And then that night, my parents were living in Thibodeau, which is where we were staying. I brought that turtle all the way back to Thibodeau with me and released him in one of the little bayous behind my parents' house. Sort of a crazy full circle moment. But during those long, hard days of communicating to my husband over cell phone when I had signal on how to run the servers all around the world and what he needed to do to roll out updates. And that was a distraction for the fact that there were so many animals in need and there was so much more I could be doing. And I said, I've got to do what I love. I just lost my house, my Jeep, everything I own, like high school pictures, childhood memories, gone. It was a blank slate.
Right.
So I gave up my well-paying job with benefits. I had dental at the age of 29. I mean, who gets dental at 29? Like, this was amazing stuff.
Well, you had a calling, though.
I had a calling. I had to do it. And I was driving down Freret Street, and this building, 4 blocks from my house, it used to be the Eves Market. It had been for sale since before Katrina, and there was a big sign across the front that said reduced. And I called my husband, and I'm like, hey, can we buy the old Eves Market, and I can start this boarding business that'll front my rescuing habit? And he's like, sure, why not? I'm like, well, this is great. Also, we were tearing down our house, literally tearing down our house, took out a loan to build a new house in the same spot, which at the time the banks were like,
Yeah, right.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
There's a green dot over your area of uptown. Are you sure you want to go back? I'm like,
Right.
I'm so sure. And then turn around and ask the bank for another huge loan to take out for buying a building on a blighted business corridor. It took me 5 banks to actually find somebody to say, yeah, I believe in what you're doing. The guy's name was Rick McCormick. I will never forget that as long as I live. And he
Sounds
said,
familiar. What bank? Is that a
it was
local bank?
It was Parish National
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
Great guy. And so he lent me the money. So I opened Zeus's Place, and Zeus's Rescues wasn't a thing yet. But I was doing boarding, trying to convince people it's okay to come on Freret.
Right.
It's okay to leave your dog, and trying to make it as affordable as I possibly could and still pay the bills because no one had money at, post-Katrina. And so after a couple of years of doing that and rescuing out, adopting out maybe 100 dogs a year, things started to get busier on the rescue side. And I had a lawyer client of mine come in one day and said, I'm going to make you a nonprofit. I'm going to set everything up for you. You need to be able to accept donations. You do so much good. You need more money, and I'm going to do it. And so that's how Zeus Rescues was born, because he said, what do you want to call it? I was like, well, I guess I have Zeus's Place, so let's call it Zeus's Rescues. And we've been a 501c3 now, I think for 13, 14, 15 years, somewhere in that range. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
That type of work definitely isn't something that you just start doing. You have to want or love the what you get back out of it, because it's such hard work especially emotionally. So like
I can't even.
I'm an animal lover myself. Actually, growing up, I wanted to be a marine biologist until I realized I wasn't that good at school. So, so I had to reevaluate that. But I've always been attached to animals. I've rescued animals from the street. If there's anything like my neighbor's dog, just yesterday I put back in the yard 3 times because the neighbor's out of the town.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I feel like they find you. Like I feel like
They do.
animals know who's going to save them when they're around, and they come find you because I seem to find them everywhere. Birds in front of my office that got hit by a truck. I brought, I would take to a sanctuary.
Yeah.
Just stuff. I just feel like you have it in you if you want to help, animals. And when you do help animals, they actually do thank you. What most people don't realize.
They do. It's amazing.
Yeah. They don't speak our language, but they feel our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rewarding to see that. I had a rescue lab that was the best dog I ever had.
Absolutely.
I mean, literally asked permission to eat type of dog.
Mm-hmm.
But just so grateful to be in a family setting, and being loved and not in a cage. you know.
It's just you show them a little bit of love. I mean, rescue work is some of the most rewarding work you'll ever do and some of the most heartbreaking work you will ever do. And sometimes that happens within a 15-minute span of each other. So you have to be able to compartmentalize um, and move on and know you can only, you can only save so much.
Right. You can only do so much,
We
right?
want to save them all. You have to realize your limitations. There's such a high burnout rate in rescue, and you have to be very cognizant of the fact, like, all right, I can only do this. I helped this one kitten today. And sometimes, that's what's going to get you through the day.
Right.
You had to say no to 15 owner surrender requests for whatever reason. That hurts. That never goes away, but you saved one life today.
Right.
That's what gets you through.
Absolutely. If there's one story you think is your favorite story out of all of this, what do you think it would be?
Of rescue?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's so many. I cling to those. All right, so I had this one little dog a couple of years ago, and he went down, and down means when they have a spinal cord injury and they lose the use of their legs.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman that had him couldn't keep him anymore, couldn't care for him, because they have to wear like diapers or whatever, and then they get urine burns, and she was elderly. So it was a last chance effort to save him. And so a friend of mine who also does rescue reached out. Can you take this down dog? And he was so cute. I'm like, yes, I can, please. And so, he came live at the rescue with us. He did great. We gave him acupuncture. We did physical therapy. We bought him a wheelchair, and he and I and my other dog Scooby, we would literally go jogging down Napoleon on the path because he was so fast. And just to see him come, he was a broken down dog. And to get him to where now he lives in Florida with this amazing family. They sent me videos. He's walking now. We've taken this down dog, and they continued the work that we were doing. Like when we had him, he'd take a couple of steps and then just like fall over. He's walking now. And that's everything. That's amazing. We totally changed the trajectory of this dog's life, who was scheduled for euthanasia, and he's a fully functioning dog again. He just needed somebody to stop, take time, invest in him, in his well-being. And I was so thrilled to be, a slight part of that. And now he's living out his days in Florida.
That's awesome. Yeah, doing more what humans should be doing, right? Because they can't help themselves in our society.
Yep. They didn't ask to be born. That's the hard part with all these unwanted litters. They didn't ask to be born. They didn't ask to, have to learn how to scavenge for food. They didn't ask to be beaten. And, they develop, they're just like us. They have feelings, and if so, every time you go up to someone, they're either spraying you with a hose or kicking you or hitting you. Yeah, you're going to get defensive. So, you have to be able to rise above that and realize, okay, this is a learned behavior. And here, what tools do I have in my toolbox to help undo that behavior and put them right back, because they didn't ask for that.
Yeah, well, and if animals are either taught to love humans or hate humans, depending on their own experiences. And they don't, like I said, they don't speak our language, but they're very emotional. And like, I've spent a lot of time with horses, riding horses, and, they sense fear. They sense when you're happy. They sense when you're angry. They know it 100%.
I have to go in, like, I have to be okay, especially when I go in on a rescue or we have an abused dog that's come in. And then if I go in and try to start working with them or even put a leash around their neck, they know if I'm not right.
Right.
So I had these two giant schnauzers, and those things are big. And they were boarding with us, and they were not fixed. And they were kind of really, really hard to handle. Just they were so pumped up being in that boarding environment. And I remember I was having a particularly rough time with something. It could have been another rescue. I wasn't correct.
Right.
I wasn't in my right state, and the dog sensed it. And I was alone in the backyard, and our backyard is, full 30 by 120 lot, and I was on the back 100 feet of it, no other staff around me. The dog immediately knew something's not right with her. I need to dominate her as the unfixed male. So he put his arms, his front paws on my shoulders, and this is like, he weighed as much as me, if not more, and tried to drag me down and started humping me. because he
He
sensed
sense, right,
I'm going to dominate you. And
right.
so I had to, immediately flip out of it
And turn
and
into the alpha,
retain
right.
the dominant position of the relationship, for those next 3 minutes that it took me to get my leash back around him.
Right.
Dogs know. I had walked that dog before. Everything was fine. I wasn't right. And he's like, I'm going to take advantage of the situation right now.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and I've had dogs do this too, but more, I guess, noticeably, I've had one of the horses that I used to ride constantly and compete with. Him and I were very close, and I forget, a family member died or something, and I went riding off in the fields, and we had a ranch in Poplarville, and I jumped off of him and kind of like did like this crying moment, like in the middle of the field, and the horse put his head over my like shoulder, like trying to console me.
Yep.
It was anything like scared me at first, but then I was like, wait, he's trying to console me.
Yeah.
You know,
They're very in tune to
so
us.
it's being that they're so emotional. I feel like humans, we have to pay attention to what situations we put them in.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely. I mean,
do you
that's
do
key.
any work with like the police dogs or anything like that as far as in town?
No.
Because I know a lot of the police dogs that stop work have issues
Yeah, it's different. I have sent dogs up north. There's this great program for veterans where they train dogs to be emotional support dogs or whatever
Right.
else they need, and they usually send pit bulls, and we have no shortage of pit bulls, as you know, in this area.
Right.
So I've sent dogs up there, and some of the dogs that I've sent up there didn't qualify for whatever reason, but now they are police dogs. They're drug
Okay.
sniffing dogs. They're ambassadors of the breed. They'll go to schools up in New York. It's amazing. But no, I haven't tried to reacclimate a police dog yet.
I know it's difficult. So my grandmother donates to, so she lives in Slidell. So every year she donates a canine dog to the unit. So I think she's up to 4 dogs
Wow.
right now. But it's that relationship is so specific,
Yep.
and then when they get off the job,
They still need a job.
they still need a job.
Their brains
They
are
have
still
to feel,
going.
you have to feel
Yeah.
useful.
Those are amazing dogs, man.
Yeah.
They are so well trained.
Oh yeah, we used to do some of it in Mississippi. We used to have Belgian Malinois, German Shepherds, then they had labs as well. But the Belgian Malinois was what they kind of specialized in.
Yeah, those are
So I spent
so beautiful and so smart.
spent a couple summers watching them train and biting on the
Yep.
with the suit and finding a nail. The most impressive one for me was they would find a nail buried 7 feet in the ground.
Wow.
So they had like a trench that was dug, and they would bury this nail that had the scent on it and bury it completely and send the dog to go search.
Yep.
And sit right on it.
Yep.
And it's like,
Crazy.
wow.
It's insane what these dogs can do.
So it just always made me think we're missing most of their language. We have no idea what they take in.
True. We can try.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so how does it feel to see Freret transformed a little bit?
Oh my goodness. It's everything I still get giddy every time I walk down Freret. So I bought my house. It's a block and a half off Freret and like a block and a half off of Jefferson as a single girl back in July of 1999. And that's the house that I tore down in Katrina. And when I first moved in and I had friends over to visit, even if they parked around the corner from my house, we would go out and walk them to their cars because it wasn't safe.
Right.
And when I first opened Zeus's place, there were regular shootings. There's a bus stop right there on the corner of Cada's. And on weekends, Freret was just a ghost town. And there were so many, there's actually still bullet pock marks on the metal part of the front of my building where, my clients had to hit the deck. I had to hit the deck.
Wow.
And so, we started, my friends Greg Insland, Peter Gardner, and I started the Freret market to start to revitalize Freret. And this was in mid '06. So Greg owned the building that's now Mojo, and Peter owned the building that is now Company Burger.
Okay.
And I remember looking out, and there was hardly any pedestrians ever on that street, more or less a car. And I saw this guy crossing the parking lot. I'm like, wonder who he is. Let me go out and say hi. So I went out, and this other guy starts walking this way. We had an entire meeting on the corner of Freret and Cada's And he's like, I own this building. I'm like, I own that building. And, Greg's like, I own that building on the corner. And we're like, we need to do
Do
something with this
something.
street. We're going to lose our money. And so, we came up with the Freret Market. And with that, my hope, we said, what do you want to see? And I was like, I want to have one restaurant on Freret Street where I can walk with my family, have dinner, and walk home without, fear of anything happening.
Right.
And I was like, wow. So, we pushed really hard. We started the Freret Market, and at the market, we would have big signs of the available business fronts. We wanted people to slow down and look at these beautiful buildings that were now blighted and go, oh, I've always wanted to open up a restaurant, a clothing store, a resale boutique, and take a chance on Freret
Right.
and realize you can come to Freret and you can be safe. And so sure enough, it started to take hold. We also had Friday night fights that was going on the old gym. Mike was the old gym owners, and people were coming out on the street. I remember the first time I went to Friday night fights on Freret Street. I was just amazed that people were out on the street on Freret at night. And this was in '07. I was like, Greg, we might have a
You
chance.
might have something going
This might
on.
actually work. And then when Neil opened up Cure
Mm-hmm.
and Adam opened up Company Burger and Steve opened up Midway, we're like, wow, we got 3 places. This is really crazy. And every time something bad happened in the neighborhood, we were like, oh,
All right.
this
Yeah.
isn't it. Oh, no, not again. And so we tried to, tell people when there was a shooting that was, even on the corner of Washington and Freret, please don't say the Freret neighborhood,
Right.
because it's there. People are going to think of the Freret corridor, the business corridor that we're trying to do. So, working with that and just constantly selling whatever we could, selling our souls to get people to come to Freret was great, and that worked. And then we finally decided, like, we want more restaurants. So how do we get more restaurants? One of their hurdles is the zoning to get an ABO for that. So we looked at the arts and cultural zoning overlay that Frenchman Street had in place and Oak Street, which
Right.
was just having their revitalization.
Because they started the Frenchman little art thing on Frenchman to kind of bring back Frenchman, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you bring people and they have a good time and then they look into the area.
Right.
So we took those arts and cultural zoning overlays and we kind of adapted them to our neighborhood. Because we didn't, with Tulane and Loyola right there, we just didn't want to become a bar, a street full of bars and,
Right.
drunken college students having fun in New Orleans. So we thoughtfully.
Because that never happens.
That never happens. That never happens when you're walking stumbling distance of a university.
Never.
So, we had all these meetings with the residents and the few business owners that we had. It's like, what do you want to see? And so we tailored this arts and cultural zoning overlay that made it so much nicer and easier for a business to open up. Like if you had a certain amount of sales of food over alcohol, then you're granted an ABO to go with your restaurant. And we limited it to 1 bar per block face per block the whole way down. We put in place a good neighbor agreement so that any new business coming in knows, hey, this is what we expect of you. Like Go Cups are labeled with the business's name so we know the trash is coming from.
Right.
We put trash cans out. We changed the street lights.
You make people accountable. It's amazing how things change.
It is. And, all the businesses that have come in have just been fantastic. We haven't had a problem business since we revitalized it.
Do you think the city is helpful or a hindrance to you guys?
Well, when we started this in '06 and '07, City Hall wasn't all the way functioning yet.
Right.
And we tried really hard to do it all legit and right, but we were not getting answers. So in the very beginning, we asked for forgiveness, not permission,
Right.
to get a lot of that going. Now, granted, we had Stacy Head guiding us along the way saying, yes, you can do this. Yes, you can't do that. There are some bigger questions that we couldn't get answered. So the city can be very helpful. There are some departments in there that are just amazing. There's some employees in there that are just a wealth of knowledge and willing to give it out. And there are so many roadblocks
Right.
in there that's just frustrating to new businesses. But hopefully with the things we put in place, it makes it a little bit easier for those people who want to come in. And I'm really proud of the fact that most of our street is local businesses.
Right.
And all the business, we all know each other.
That all makes a difference. I mean, it creates a family environment. And when you create that environment,
Yep.
the energy expands. And that's the type of people you attract as
Yeah.
well, So I think it all makes a difference, and everybody, I mean, it should all work together,
Yeah, absolutely.
There's enough
Excuse me.
there's enough money to go around,
Yeah. I mean, even with all the restaurants we have on our street, at one point we had 4 pizza places and we had 3 coffee shops, and 3 tattoo parlors at once. And all those people still got along.
Right.
And I know that I would see all the time, like people walking with ice buckets from one restaurant to the other. If your ice machine went out, like, here, have some ice, just the sharing of resources for the betterment of the street. A rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
So we're all hands on deck.
And that goes back to New Orleans as a whole. As a
Exactly.
people, we're like that, which I
Yes.
think what draws people to us, and the culture that we have down here, because we have a huge heart. We like helping people.
Yeah.
The Cajun Army, the Cajun Navy. That's what they call it,
Cajun
right?
Navy,
The
they're
Cajun
amazing.
Navy.
Yeah.
So it's just in our blood.
Absolutely. That's the way I was brought up, being Cajun. Like,
Yeah.
here, I have $1. You need 50 cents.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Because honestly, it's no fun by myself.
Exactly. Who are you gonna laugh with?
Yeah,
Who are
right.
you gonna drink with?
100%.
Yeah.
No, and that was definitely something my family instilled in me as well. And I mean, we have pirate blood in us. Like I said, my grandfather spoke Cajun French, but one of my great uncles was Nat Chickazola.
Really?
Jean Lafitte's
Yeah.
pirate's first mate.
Yeah.
So there's actually some Chickazolas still living
Interesting.
down in Lafitte, and a little bit south. But they all had that, because they're a huge family. They all had that, big family take-in type of vibe.
Yeah.
So it's just, we go back in our history with it.
Yeah. We come by it naturally.
Yeah.
It's in your blood.
And you don't really realize it until you leave, when you go somewhere else, and you go and you sit at a bar and you try to have a conversation with somebody, and you're like, wait a minute.
I went to Marymount in New York, and when I moved up there, first of all, everybody thought I was from Brooklyn with my accent.
With the accent,
and then
yep.
a lot of the words I still say to this day, I don't realize that they're not English words. They're Cajun words. Or I
right.
pronounce, like, I say mayonnaise instead of. I remember being at a McDonald's and I was like, no mayonnaise, and they're like, what?
What?
I'm like, ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, and they're like, no. It's like the white stuff. Like, I don't know how else to say this. But I would be sitting on the subway, going to class, telling everybody hi, walking down the street. Now, this is 1988. So it was a little different back there, but back then, and I was walking around like, hey,
Right.
hey, how you doing? How you been? Like, and people just like, are you trying to kill me? What are you? So I have that Cajunness in me. Like, can I cook you something? You want to hang out?
Oh, no. The words that we use are very specific to us.
Yeah.
I feel like, we definitely have a lot of slang.
Like hosepipe. My daughter still does not understand why the fact that I call both, I learned the term spigot, and the green thing that attaches to the spigot. To us Cajuns, it's all the hosepipe.
Yep.
It's just the hosepipe.
It's just a hosepipe. Yep. Or the neutral ground.
Exactly.
know?
What's the other word for it? Wait, median.
Median. Yeah. When I moved to Florida, all I knew was neutral ground. I was like, what are you talking about? But what would you like to see the future of Freret and your business? Like, where would you like to see the street, the area go? What would be the next step?
Oh, wow. I haven't even thought ahead. I'm just so happy as it is right now. We've had a couple of businesses close for different reasons. Like Mr. Bean passed away 2 years ago now, and he has that beautiful building that's kind of catty corner to Midway Pizza. And then right across from that, where Dr. Zeller, my mentor's lot was, it's remained vacant. We had a couple of things turn over, and I've noticed that the businesses are trending younger. It's like staying current with, like the trending of, we have a more youthful customer base coming from Loyola and Tulane and from other areas. And the businesses that are there now are catering themselves to that. But also still, you still have Cure, you still have Hi-Hat, that will tend to above college age students, kids,
Right.
people. I want to see it keep being a relevant street no matter what happens. And, I'm going to be there. I own my house. I don't plan on going anywhere. Fret's in my blood. So,
Right.
I'm just going to
Keeping the
hang out.
youth and that well that brings the art and the culture if you just keep the youth coming.
Absolutely. I mean, Freret Hardware's been there since what, the 50s,
Hmm.
and they've managed to stay relevant. They're an old time hardware store that has anything you could ever possibly need. I've never stumped them in my 26 years in the Freret neighborhood. I've never walked in and go, I don't know, I don't have that. They just
I
have a
was so
cubby.
mad when Harry's closed in Metairie because I had just moved. So I grew up in Lakeview, but my wife lived more in Old Metairie growing up. So when we got married, we went to Old Metairie. But we had just moved to Old Metairie and Harry's closes. Now I got to go to Lowe's. Harry's was perfect.
Yeah, it's that
I
that
love that.
charm of
Yeah.
having anybody you ask in there know exactly what you need because they probably fixed it somewhere before and they
Yep.
can go find it on one of those aisles somewhere
Yep.
and then tell you how to fix
They
it.
tell you how to fix it.
I walk in there all the time with my phone. I usually say I don't plumb. I should never plumb. I should never work plumbing, but I try. I try a lot. And so I'll walk in there with a picture of something I've broken and I'll talk to Derek or Yancey or Mike. And I was like, all right, I need this fixed. And so they'll take my phone and they'll go to the back and you need this and you need this. And when you get home, you're going to put that in there, and you're going to do that there. And
Being a helpful human being, like that's the hardest thing to find in Lowe's.
I'm not saying that there aren't people in Lowe's or Home Depot that do that, but there's just that.
The corporate system that stops them from doing it
This
overall.
is just some local touch.
Who
that
cares
you get.
about what happens in his neighborhood?
Yep.
Yeah. No, and it's special because I feel like we're losing more and more of that.
Yeah.
We're losing more and more of that.
Luckily on Freret, we're keeping it real, keeping it there.
That's awesome. I forgot to ask you how the Scrim saga helped or impacted your business.
It impacted my business. Actually, as far as boarding and grooming is concerned, it really didn't change much of anything. On the rescue side, it brought awareness, I think, to rescue animals in general, and the awareness of people in the public when you see that animal or an animal running down the street, like maybe the dog's just lost, or maybe the dog has an owner, or maybe I should stop and get that dog. Like, I think it just brought awareness to the fact that we have so many animals on the streets right now. I also got a exponentially larger number of requests for animals to enter our program, which unfortunately, once again, I can't do
take them all in,
anything.
yeah.
I think it brought up awareness for Zeus Rescues and rescues in general. And luckily it had an amazing outcome. So, it was tied up nicely in a bow that he's safe. And I wish that for all of my rescues and all of the dogs and animals out there. One other way to help the rescues is spay neutering.
Very important.
Very, very important. Especially, there are some great programs out there. Trap That Cat has one where they'll come in and trap, spay, neuter, rabies vaccinate, and then release back, so we stop that pet overpopulation problem.
Gotcha.
I would love to be out of a job. I would love for there to be no stray animals that need a home.
Absolutely.
That I could just work on owner surrenders, people who have to move or get divorced, or people who pass away and they have pets. I would love to just focus in on that and not just the puppies and kittens and unwanted litters that get dumped on us in the shelters. There's some great programs. A lot of the shelters are doing it for free right now. Spay neutering, that's great. So just spay, neuter, and make our jobs easier. Put me out of a job. Who did used to say, the LAS man would say, take away my job or work me out of a job? Or there was a whole thing like, I don't take my job away, like put up your storm shutters and you don't need me anymore.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah, no, and it's true. I mean, if we all took care of our animals and took our responsibility, there would be less need for help. But unfortunately, that's just not the way life goes. How did you feel seeing the community all look for Scrim? How did you?
That was one of the most amazing things. I mean, it just really galvanized my love for New Orleans as if it wasn't there before. He unified a city that was going through some difficult times. Everybody wanted to see him safe. And, I was getting calls and texts throughout the middle of the night, throughout the day. Didn't matter what I was doing. There were people out there keeping their eyes open and looking for him. And that just was everything. I'm looking for a 17-pound dog who can hide in a 6 by 6 inch area over 50 square miles.
Wow.
It's insane. And he can run over 20 miles an hour. I would have never found him without the help of the community giving me those sightings so we could track his movements and figure out where he sleeps. So it's amazing. I cannot believe this little bitty dog has, brought together this community.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes something humanizing to bring a community together.
Absolutely.
It's there's nothing more humanizing than helping an animal.
And I'm so
And
thankful that they did.
honestly, it sounds like a movie deal at some point.
Yeah, right.
Well, is there you want to tell people how to find your rescues and
Absolutely.
and how to help out, send money, or reach
Absolutely.
out either way?
So we're online at zeusrescues.org. And you can also, we have an Instagram, we have a Facebook page, and every day I post up a new rescue and give you the story of how I got it, what it likes, what doesn't like it, how to apply for it. Right now, and we're having a half off sale of our rescues. Other adoption fees cover all shots, spay neutering, microchipping, deworming. If the dog is heartworm positive, we treat it at no extra charge to you. If kittens like to get herpes out on the streets all the time, we have to pop out their eyes. So if we have to do anything like that, it's all covered by the one adoption fee. So please adopt if you can. We turn down animals every day, and it, as I mentioned earlier, it hurts your soul, but you can only do what you can do. Like, we only have X amount of kennels, and I can only take in X amount of dogs because I only have that many open kennels. If you can't adopt, if you're not in position, you can always foster. I can't say it enough. Fostering saves lives. That opens up room on our inn.
Right.
We provide all the food, the kennel, the bowls, the harnesses, the leashes that you need. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year.
It takes a special person to foster.
It does, because you have to. Well,
'Cause
we
you have
also
to let go.
You have to let. Well, we also have foster fails. So
Right.
we always say fosters have the first right of refusal. So say I've put this dog, this beautiful Malinois, in your home, and it's been there for 3 or 4 months, and I call and say, "Hey, I have an approved app." You can say, "I'm so sorry, I can't bear to part with
lose,
this
right.
animal." So you get to adopt them, and then we find another one for the other adopter. Money is always, I mean, my medical bills alone last year were $300,000.
Wow.
That's just medical. We're not talking insurance. We're not talking rent. We're not talking
Food.
all food,
Yeah.
Utilities, insurance, you name it. So money always helps, but I realize in the economy, that's really hard to come by. I write grants in my free time when I actually have free time, which helps. But even as important as money, we always need supplies. So fleece blankets, wet cat food, harnesses, leashes, kennels, you name it. And if you don't even have any of that and you have a spare hour, come to our rescue building on Napoleon. Take one of our adoptable
For a
dogs
walk. Yep.
on a walk. Get them out of the building for an hour. They love it. It makes them more adoptable.
More
that
social.
gives us
Yep.
an hour to deep clean that kennel.
Right.
So, it's just give back with time. There's so many ways. Or even if you're like, hey, I'm a lawn cutter. Let me go and clear up those weeds in front of the building that Michelle hasn't had a chance to do.
Right.
Can I clean your gutters? Can I paint your fence? We're such a small team that does so much, so that anything you can do to help, we are gladly going to accept and put you in the right direction.
Community help.
Always.
Awesome. So how can people support you through the Scrim notoriety?
There's so many different ways to support with Scrim themes. So a couple of months ago, we came up with Tara at Francolini's on Chapatoulas said, hey, let's do like a t-shirt contest where we let the public come up with designs and print some t-shirts. So we ended up printing out some t-shirts, and we still have some left for sale at our rescue building, and you can come in on Napoleon any day from 10 to 4 and pick it up. And then the wonderful tattoo artist at Swampwater Tattoo did a flash tattoo sale over the summer, and we used one of their amazing designs and made a t-shirt. We have a couple of hats and patches. So we still have those items for sale at our rescue location, or you could shoot us an email at zeusrescues@gmail.com, and we can mail it to you if you're not in the New Orleans area.
Okay, and some books too, right?
There are two different authors so far have come up with books and about Scrim and Scrim being on the run. and the proceeds are split between me and 4 other near and dear rescues to my heart.
Awesome. Spread the wealth, right?
Spread the love. You help one of us, you help all of us. So
Awesome.
I do have, and also I should say, I have a shelter diversion program that's really robust. Speaking of people having to give up pets, where we have free food for dogs and cats as they're donated to us. So people can help by donating. Like, say your dog decided, I don't want to eat that food anymore. I have a half a bag of food left. Don't throw it out. Bring it to our rescue location. You got your dog a new collar. Give us your old one.
Right.
Your dog doesn't want to go in a crate anymore. Give it to us. We, in turn, take all of these supplies and hand them out to people so that when they come to surrender a pet because they can't afford it, we can say, okay, what's prohibiting you from keeping this pet? And if it's money for food, don't worry, we have food for you. Here you go. Do you need vaccines? We got that for you.
Right.
Let us vaccinate for you. There's a great program called the Inner Pup who provides free heartworm and flea prevention, vaccines, heartworm treatments. So there's so many ways that we're trying to keep these animals from hitting the shelter system. So we take, like I said, all donations to try to help pets stay with people instead of coming to us.
Awesome. Do you have some great vets that work with you?
Absolutely. The vets at Metairie Small Animal Hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Joe Vaccaro, I cannot say enough good things about him.
So Dr. Martin was my guy back in the day.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, he was everything for my family, but he let me sit and help deliver a litter of labs for my dad's dog. She had 17 puppies.
Oh my God.
As a lab.
Did you have to help her deliver?
Well, so 6 of them ended up dying because one got stuck in the birth canal. But he needed help because it was like 17 puppies had coming,
Just keep coming,
and they just kept coming. So I was there all night with them, and then I ended up, because she got sick after all that and had to have surgery to get them removed. So we had to, feed them with the syringes and all that stuff. So I have a little bit of experience with what it's like, and it's not easy when you do those pups.
You're never going to respect a feral cat mama more than you do when you have her litter.
Right.
You're like, oh my, really? I just fed you 2 hours ago. It's 3 a.m. Can I get 3 hours of sleep? But yeah, it's a lot.
Well, it takes a special person, and thanks so much for the work you do.
Thank you.
It's
I don't do it alone. I have an amazing team at all of my locations, and then the volunteers who help out. I mean, it takes all of us working together to help these animals.
Awesome. Well, the more the better. The more help, the better, and the more money, the better. So let's donate as much as possible to these guys. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate the conversation.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and if you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe to our page. And if not, I'll see you next time. Peace.